The grand hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with worried voices. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose high above the central speaking platform. The room fell silent as Council Leader Moza raised her long, slender hand. "We now address the urgent matter from the Viridian Alliance," she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Ambassador Zaleth stepped forward. His blue skin glistened under the bright lights, and his 4 eyes blinked nervously. He was much shorter than most council members, barely reaching 5 feet tall. The weight of his mission made his shoulders slump. "Honorable Council," Zaleth began, his voice shaking. "My homeworld faces destruction. The scourge has already consumed 3 of our outer colonies. Billions are dead or missing." He touched a device on his wrist, and a large image appeared above. The platform got the council members gasped. The image showed a planet surrounded by what looked like a dark cloud. But it wasn't a cloud. It was thousands of ships, swarming like insects. "This was Viridian Colony Nexus 7, 2 weeks ago," Zaleth continued. "We lost contact shortly after this transmission. Our scientists estimate the scourge will reach our homeworld in 30 days. Our weapons cannot stop them." Elder Zavik, one of the oldest council members, leaned forward, his gray skin wrinkled with concern. "What do you ask of us, Ambassador?" "The Council Defense Fleet is spread thin across 17 sectors." Zaleth took a deep breath. "We wish to contact the humans." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Some representatives stood up in protest. Others simply looked confused. Moza struck her staff against the floor 3 times. "Silence," she commanded. When the room quieted, she turned to Zaleth. "You speak of the isolated species from the Gravity Well planet? The ones classified as Deathworlders?" "Yes," Zaleth nodded. "Earth." Elder Zavik's eyes narrowed. "The humans have only had observer status for 8 years. They have not been approved for full contact. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. But their warriors are not." Zaleth replied, "Our research suggests humans evolved in conditions that would kill most species in this room. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, deadly predators, and constant warfare among themselves. They are naturally stronger, faster, and more durable than Viridians. And their military history spans thousands of years." A representative from the Zolan Confederation stood up. "You would bring these savages into galactic affairs? Humans still fight among themselves over resources and territory. They cannot be trusted with advanced technology." Zaleth turned to face the critic. "The latest reports show they have united their planet under a global defense force. And we don't need their technology. We need their soldiers, their instincts, their capacity for violence." The last words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Most species in the Galactic Council had evolved beyond their violent instincts thousands of years ago. Warfare was clinical, calculated, and rare. The idea of seeking out a species known for their combat abilities was disturbing to many. Council Leader Moza studied Zaleth for a long moment. "What makes you think these humans would help you? They have no ties to the Viridian Alliance. They have shown great interest in galactic cooperation since we revealed ourselves to them," Zaleth said. "And humans have a strange tendency to protect weaker beings. Many of their cultural stories involve standing up against overwhelming odds to defend others." Elder Zavik sighed deeply. "I have studied Earth transmissions for years. What the ambassador says is true. Humans glorify the warrior who fights for others. They call them heroes. But be warned, those who evolve on Deathworlds carry that environment's ruthlessness within them." The council chamber remained quiet as everyone considered the implications. Bringing humans into a galactic war could save the Viridians, but what would happen afterward? Would the humans return to their planet, Or would they use this opportunity to expand their influence? After what seemed like hours, Council Leader Moses spoke. We will vote on this matter. The stakes are too high for a single decision. The voting took less than 5 minutes. With the scourge threatening to spread beyond Viridian space, fear outweighed caution. By a narrow margin, the Council approved Zalith's request. You may contact Earth, Moses announced. But a Council observer must accompany your delegation, and the humans must agree to certain restrictions on their involvement. Zalith bowed deeply. Thank you, Council Leader. We will depart immediately. 3 days later, a Viridian diplomatic vessel exited faster than light travel near Earth's moon. The blue-green planet filled the ship's viewing screen. It's so bright, whispered Sella, Zalith's assistant. And the gravity readings. How do? They survive? Zalith studied the planet with all 4 eyes. They don't just survive, Sella. They thrive. That's why we need them. The ship's communication system activated. A human voice spoke in carefully pronounced galactic standard. Viridian vessel, this is United Earth Defense Force Command. We've been notified of your approach. Please maintain position for escort. Soon 4 human ships surrounded the Viridian vessel. They were bulky and angular compared to the smooth curves of Viridian design. Even to untrained eyes, they were clearly warships. The human voice returned. Ambassador Zalith, we welcome you to Earth. Commander Lisa Reeves will receive your delegation at our lunar base. Please follow our escort. As the ships moved toward Earth's moon, Zalith turned to Council Observer Neth. The tall, thin alien had been quietly watching everything. What do you think of them so far? Zalith asked. Neth's face remained expressionless. They sent military ships to greet a diplomatic vessel. That tells us everything we need to know. It tells us they're cautious, Zalith replied. As they should be. The lunar base was a sprawling complex of domes and towers built into the gray surface. Inside a large meeting room, Commander Lisa Reeves waited with her staff. She was shorter than many of her officers, but stood with absolute confidence. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and her uniform displayed numerous medals. When the Viridian delegation entered, Reeves stepped forward and offered a perfect Viridian greeting bow. Ambassador Zalith, welcome to Luna Base. I understand. Your situation is urgent. Zalith returned the bow. Commander Reeves, thank you for meeting us. Yes, time is critical. The scourge approaches our homeworld, and we seek humanity's help. Reeves nodded. We've reviewed the information you sent. Ahead, President Fitzgerald has called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. They're waiting to speak with you via secure transmission. She gestured toward a large screen on the wall. They have many questions, Ambassador. But I should warn you, if we agree to help, we will not do so halfway. When humans fight, we commit. Fully. Zalith felt a chill despite the warm room. This was what his people needed, warriors who would commit fully. But as he looked at the stern faces of the human officers, he remembered Elder Tsavik's warning about Deathworlders and their ruthlessness. What kind of force was he about to unleash upon the galaxy? Ambassador Zalith stood nervously before the large screen. On it, 20 human faces looked back at him from the United Nations Security Council. President Adam Fitzgerald sat in the center, his gray hair and serious expression giving him an air of authority. Ambassador, President Fitzgerald began, we've reviewed the data on this scourge threat. Before we make our decision, we need to understand exactly what we'd be facing. Zalith nodded and pressed a button on his wrist device. Images appeared on the screen, horrible scenes of destruction. Planets with surfaces covered in strange, moving black material. Cities being torn apart by creatures that looked like giant insects with metal parts. The scourge is a hive-mind species, Zalith explained. They consume all resources on a planet, including the population. They use the materials to build more of themselves. We've lost 3 colony worlds already. A woman with short blonde hair leaned forward. Her nameplate read, Secretary of Defense, Patricia Clark. What are their weaknesses? She asked directly. Zalith blinked in surprise. Most species would first ask about evacuation plans or defensive strategies. The humans wanted to know how to kill the enemy. They rely on central command ships, he said. But these stay far behind the front lines, protected by millions of drone ships. No one has ever reached a command ship. Commander Lisa Reeves, who stood beside Zalith, asked, What about ground combat? Do your people fight them on the surface? Zalith lowered his eyes. We try to evacuate before they land. The Scourge drones are twice the size of the average Viridian, with natural armor and acid weapons. We cannot match them in direct combat. The humans exchanged glances. President Fitzgerald spoke again. Ambassador, we need an hour to discuss. Privately. Please wait in the adjoining room. While the Viridian delegation waited, they could hear raised voices from the council room. An argument was happening, but they couldn't make out the words. Council observer Neff looked worried. They're going to refuse, he whispered. Our journey was wasted. Zalith wasn't so sure. They're not afraid like us, he said. They're arguing about how to fight, not whether to run. After exactly 1 hour, they were called back in. The humans looked more unified now, their decision made. President Fitzgerald spoke clearly and firmly. Ambassador Zalith, humanity accepts your request for aid. We will help defend your homeworld against the Scourge. Relief washed over Zalith, but the president wasn't finished. However, we have conditions. First, we will send our own scout ships to assess the threat directly. Second, we require a forward base on your outer moon to stage our operations. Third, we will have complete control over all military aspects of this mission. Zalith hesitated. Giving aliens complete military control went against all Viridian protocols. But what choice did they have? We accept your conditions, he said. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. While Zalith and his delegation remained at the lunar base, Earth became a hive of activity. Not the destructive kind like the Scourge, but one of purpose and determination. Commander Reeves provided updates. We're mobilizing the largest joint military operation in human history, she explained. All nations are contributing ships, weapons, and soldiers. Zalith was confused. Joint operation? I thought humans had united. Reeves smiled slightly. We have a united defense force for space threats, but our planet still has many nations. We're competitive with each other. But when faced with an outside enemy, she shrugged. We come together quickly. On the 4th day, Reeves took the Viridian delegation to an observation deck overlooking Earth's orbit. Zalith's 4 eyes widened. At what he saw, hundreds of ships were gathering in formation. Some were enormous carrier vessels that could hold thousands of smaller craft. Others were sleek and deadly looking. Supply ships moved between them, loading weapons and equipment. This is just the first wave, Reeves said. The main fleet will follow once our scouts confirm the Scourge's position. Sella, Zalith's assistant, stepped back in shock. You've built all these ships in just 4 days? Reeves laughed. No, these were already built. Each nation maintains its own military fleet. What you're seeing is less than half of Earth's total space force. Council Observer Neff finally spoke. Why do you need so many warships? You said you were at peace. Reeves' expression grew serious. Humans prepare for war even in peacetime. It's our nature. That evening, Zalith met Captain Jack Collins, who would lead the ground forces. Collins was tall for a human, with a weathered face and strong hands. He had been fighting in Earth's harshest environments for 20 years. My team specializes in hostile territory operations, Collins explained as they examined maps of the Viridian homeworld. Extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, heavy gravity, were trained for it all. Zalith noticed the casual way Collins discussed conditions that would kill most Viridians. Captain, our gravity is only 0.7 of Earth's. Our temperature range is narrow compared to yours. Collins grinned. You're telling me we're going to a paradise planet? My Marines will think they're on vacation. The comment wasn't meant to offend, but it reminded Zalith how different humans were. What Viridians considered normal, humans found easy. What humans considered normal would kill most species in the galaxy. 2 scout ships left that night, using Viridian faster-than-light technology to reach the edge of Viridian space. They carried both human and Viridian crews. While waiting for their reports, the first wave of the human fleet prepared to depart. 5 massive carriers, 20 dreadnoughts, and over 100 smaller combat vessels formed up near Earth's moon. Admiral Diane Summers, a stern woman with gray-streaked red hair, would command the fleet. At the final briefing, she addressed both human officers and the Viridian delegation. Our mission is clear, she said, pointing to star maps. Secure Viridian space, eliminate the Scourge threat, and protect civilian populations. We will use overwhelming force to achieve these objectives. The scout ships returned on the 6th day. Their reports confirmed Zalith's worst fears. The Scourge fleet was even larger than expected, already consuming the resources of Viridian's outermost colony. Instead of discouraging the humans, this news seemed to energize them. Admiral Summers immediately accelerated the deployment schedule. They don't know we're coming, she told President Fitzgerald in Zalith's presence. We have the element of surprise. If we hit them now, while they're spread out and feeding, we can cause maximum damage. Fitzgerald nodded. You have full authorization, Admiral. Godspeed. On the 7th day since their arrival at Earth, Zalith and his delegation boarded the flagship of the human fleet, the UED's Valiant. As the massive ships activated their engines, Zalith watched Earth grow smaller through a viewport. Commander. Reeves stood beside him. Worried, Ambassador? Zalith turned all 4 eyes to her. Not about the Scourge anymore, he admitted. I'm worried about what happens after you save us. Reeves didn't answer immediately. When she did, her words were honest. That's wise of you. But first, let's make sure there is an after to worry about. The first wave of the Deathworlder Armada entered faster-than-light travel, vanishing from Earth's solar system. They carried with them humanity's weapons, technology, and warriors, and something the galaxy had never seen before humanity's way of war. The human fleet exited faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Viridian system. The journey had taken 3 days by human measurement. Admiral Summers stood on the bridge of the UEDS Valiant, watching as the fleet formed up in perfect order. Status. Report, she commanded. All ships present and accounted for, Admiral, her second-in-command reported. No detection from the Scourge yet. They're still concentrated around Viridian Colony 5, just as our scouts reported. Ambassador Zalith and Commander Reeves joined the Admiral at the main view screen. The display showed the Viridian home system, a yellow sun with 7 planets. The 3rd planet, SciFiPrime, glowed blue-green like Earth, but with more land than ocean. The 5th planet, once a thriving mining colony, now swarmed with black dots, the Scourge. How soon can we reach my homeworld? Zalith asked, his voice tight with worry. Admiral Summers pointed to the tactical display. We'll split the fleet. Captain Collins and his ground forces will take 5 transport ships directly to Viridian Prime to establish defensive positions. The main battle group will head to Colony 5 to engage the Scourge. Zalith's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You're attacking them directly? Not setting up defensive lines? The best defense is a good offense, Summers replied. We hit them while they're feeding and disrupt their operations. That gives us time to prepare your homeworld's defenses properly. On the transport ship UEDS Defender, Captain Jack Collins briefed his Marines. 200 men and women in powered combat armor stood at attention. Their armor was bulky by Viridian standards, but allowed humans to carry heavy weapons and survive extreme conditions. Listen up, Collins said, his voice carrying through the ship's bay. We're heading to Viridian Prime. Our job is to prepare the planet for possible invasion and train local forces in combat tactics. The gravity is lower than Earth, the air is cleaner, and the temperature is mild. In other words, perfect fighting conditions for us. A Marine raised her hand. Sir, what about the locals? Will they fight alongside us? Sergeant Kim, the Viridians are not natural warriors, Collins explained. They evolved on a peaceful world without major predators. They're smart and technically advanced, but not built for combat like we are. Our job is to protect them and teach those willing to learn. As the transport ships broke away from the main fleet, the battle group continued toward Colony 5. Admiral Summers reviewed the attack plan with her officers. The Scourge operates as a hive mind, she explained. Their drone ships are fast, but not very intelligent on their own. They rely on command signals from larger vessels. Our electronic warfare units will attempt to jam these signals while our fighters engage the drones. Commander Reeves pointed to larger ships on the display. What about these vessels here, at the back of their formation? Those are likely there. Command ships, Summers replied. Heavily armored and well protected. That's our primary target, but we'll have to fight through their entire fleet to reach them. The Valiant's communication officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Viridian Prime. It's General Alara of the Viridian Defense Force. The screen changed to show a female Viridian. Unlike Zalith, her blue skin had purple markings, indicating higher rank. Admiral Summers. She began formally. Our long-range sensors detect your fleet's arrival. The Viridian Defense Force awaits your instructions. Summers nodded respectfully. General Ilara, I've dispatched Captain Collins with ground forces to your planet. Please provide all assistance for establishing defensive positions. The main fleet will engage the Scourge at Colony 5 to buy us time. General Ilara looked surprised. You're attacking them directly? Our analysis suggested defensive positions would be more effective. With respect, General, your people have been fighting defensively and losing ground, Summers said firmly. We fight differently. 4 hours later, Captain Collins' transport ships entered Viridian Prime's atmosphere. The ships landed in a large, open area outside the capital city. Thousands of Viridians gathered to watch, having never seen human vessels before. Collins was the first to step out. Without his helmet, he could breathe the Viridian air easily. It was like mountain air, on Earth clean, and slightly cool. He felt lighter, stronger in the lower gravity. General Ilara met him at the landing site with 50 Viridian officers. She was taller than most Viridians, but still shorter than Collins. Her uniform was elegant rather than practical. Captain Collins, she greeted him with a formal bow. Welcome to Viridian Prime. Collins returned the gesture. Thank you, General. We need to begin work immediately. My engineers will set up defense systems around your major cities. We need to identify bottlenecks where we can funnel enemy forces. If they land. The Marines exited the transport ships and began unloading equipment. The Viridians watched in amazement as humans carried loads that would require machinery on their world. One Marine dropped a heavy crate and quickly picked it up with one hand. A group of Viridian children gasped in wonder. Your people are so strong, General Ilara observed. We come from a high-gravity world, Collins explained. What's normal for us is extraordinary here. Meanwhile, in space near Colony 5, Admiral Summers' fleet approached the Scourge swarm. The black mass of ships covered much of the planet's surface. Some were already leaving, having consumed all available resources. They haven't detected us yet, Summers noted with satisfaction. Launch fighter squadrons. Begin electronic jamming on my mark. Hundreds of small fighter craft poured out of the larger carriers. Each was piloted by a single human, trained to operate in the vacuum of space. All units in position, Admiral. The tactical officer reported. Summers' eyes narrowed. Mark. Suddenly, powerful electromagnetic pulses shot out from specialized ships in the human fleet. The effect on the Scourge was immediate. The smaller drone ships began moving erratically, like insects when their nest is disturbed. It's working, Commander Reeves observed. Their coordination is disrupted. Launch the attack, Summers ordered. All fighters, engage targets of opportunity. Cruisers, target the larger vessels. Keep jamming those command signals. The human fighters swooped into the confused mass of Scourge ships, firing precision weapons. Unlike the Viridians, who used energy weapons that dispersed in space, human weapons were solid projectiles and missiles that tore through the Scourge's organic metal hulls. On the bridge of the Valiant, Ambassador Zalith watched in amazement. He had expected the humans to be good warriors, but this was beyond his imagination. They attacked with a coordination and ferocity his people had never mastered. This is just the beginning, Admiral Summers told him, seeing his expression. We haven't even shown them our real strength yet. As the battle raged around Colony 5 on Viridian Prime, Captain Collins established the first defensive line. Human engineering teams worked alongside Viridian laborers to create fortifications that would channel any landing Scourge into kill zones. A message from Admiral Summers reached Collins' command post. Initial engagement successful. Scourge responding. Slower than expected. Continuing to press advantage. Prepare for possible counterattack within 48 hours. Collins looked out at the beautiful Viridian landscape with its purple plants and twin moons visible in the daylight sky. He turned to General. Ilara, let's make sure this world stays yours, he said. The real fight is just beginning. The battle above Colony 5 raged for 6 hours. Human fighters darted between the larger Scourge ships, targeting weak points that Viridian sensors had never detected. Admiral Summers directed the fleet from the bridge of the Valiant, constantly, adjusting tactics as the Scourge tried to adapt. They're learning, she noted, as the black ships began to form new patterns. Their command ships are sending out new signals to counter our jamming. Commander Reeves studied the tactical display. The drones are becoming more coordinated again. Our advantage is slipping. Admiral Summers smiled slightly. Then it's time for Phase 2. Signal the Hammer Group to move into position. 5 human ships that had been hiding behind Colony 5's moon suddenly powered up their engines. These were the heaviest battleships in the fleet, equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Hammer Group in position, the communications officer reported. Target the largest command ship and fire when ready, Summers ordered. The 5 battleships aligned their main guns at a massive Scourge vessel near the back of their formation. Energy built up visibly at the front of each human ship, then released. In coordinated beams that combined into one devastating strike, the command ship didn't just break apart, it vaporized. The shock wave damaged nearby Scourge vessels, sending them spinning out of control. On the Valiant's bridge, Ambassador Zalith gasped. By the stars ... what kind of weapons are those? Concentrated plasma cannons, Reeves explained. Developed for asteroid mining, repurposed for war. The effect on the Scourge was immediate. Thousands of drone ships suddenly moved erratically or stopped completely. Without the central command ship, they couldn't coordinate. All vessels pressed the attack. Admiral Summers commanded, "Target the remaining command ships while they're confused." As the human fleet surged forward, a warning alarm sounded on the Valiant. "Admiral, we're detecting faster-than-light signatures at the edge of the system," the sensor officer reported urgently. "Many signatures. It's another Scourge fleet." Summers remained calm. "How many ships?" "At least twice what we're currently fighting," came the reply. Ambassador Zalith's blue skin paled to a light gray. "They must have called for reinforcements." "When we attacked," Summers nodded. "Likely. But this works in our favor. Signal Captain Collins on Viridian Prime. Tell him the second Scourge fleet has arrived earlier than expected. Then prepare all ships to retreat to Viridian Prime." Zalith looked confused. "Retreat? But you were winning." "We destroyed one command ship and damaged their fleet," Summers explained. "That was never the entire plan. Now we need them to follow us." On Viridian Prime, Captain Collins received the Admiral's message while overseeing the final preparations of the planet's defenses. For 3 days, his Marines had worked alongside Viridian workers to create a complex defensive network around the major cities. "They're coming sooner than expected," he told General Ilara. "Are your people ready?" The Viridian general looked nervous but determined. "As ready as we can be in such a short time. Your training has helped, but my soldiers have never faced direct combat on this scale." Collins placed a hand on her shoulder, careful to be gentle with his earth-born strength. "They'll fight better than you expect. Fear is a powerful motivator, and they're fighting for their homes." He turned to Sergeant Kim, who was training a group of Viridian volunteers. "Sergeant, activate all defensive systems. Move all civilians to the underground shelters. The enemy will be here within 12 hours. In space, the human fleet executed a fighting retreat toward Viridian Prime. They moved slowly enough to ensure the Scourge followed, but quickly enough to avoid being surrounded. They're taking the bait, Commander Reeves observed as the massive Scourge fleet pursued them. Both the damaged fleet and the new arrivals. Admiral Summers studied the tactical display with satisfaction. Good. The more of them we can draw to Viridian Prime, the better our plan works. Ambassador Zalith looked horrified. You're bringing them directly to our homeworld? I thought you were going to keep them away. Trust me, Ambassador, Summers said firmly. This is how we win. As the human fleet approached Viridian Prime, they spread out into a new formation, creating what looked like gaps in their defenses. The planet itself glowed blue-green below them, seemingly vulnerable. On the surface, Captain Collins directed the final preparations from a command center beneath the capital city. Thousands of automated defense turrets were hidden across the landscape. Special mines designed by human engineers were scattered in orbit, disguised as debris. All units report ready, Sergeant Kim informed him. Collins nodded. Good. Now we wait. In orbit above the planet, the human fleet appeared to be setting up a last defensive line. The Scourge fleet, now combining both the damaged forces from Foon, Colony 5, and the fresh reinforcements, approached confidently, their numbers overwhelming Dot on the Valiant. Admiral Summers opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels, prepare to execute Operation Hammerfall on my command. This is what we planned for. The Scourge fleet moved closer, their black ships blocking out the stars. They spread wide, preparing to envelope the human defenders and descend to the planet's surface. They're in position, Commander Reeves reported. All their command ships are present in the main formation. Admiral Summers took a deep breath. Begin Operation Hammerfall. Suddenly, the apparent gaps in the human formation were filled as hidden ships decloaked. These were smaller vessels with specialized equipment rather than weapons. Gravitic pulse generators at full power, the tactical officer reported. Activate, Summers ordered. The hidden ships released powerful waves of gravitational energy. These weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They didn't destroy ships directly. Instead, they created localized distortions in space that pulled objects together with tremendous force. The effect on the spread-out Scourge fleet was devastating. Hundreds of ships were suddenly yanked toward each other, colliding at high speed. A carefully organized formation collapsed into chaos. Phase 2, Summers commanded. All ships target the command vessels. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, kinetic projectiles, and missiles streaked toward the Scourge command ships, which were now exposed without their protective screen of drones. On the planet below, Captain Collins watched the space battle through a tactical feed. "Get ready," he told his forces. "Some will still get through. When they land, they'll be disorganized, but still dangerous." General Elara gathered her courage. "My people are ready, Captain. We will fight alongside you." In space, the human ships moved with precision that amazed the watching Viridians. Unlike the rigid formations of other species, the humans adapted constantly, individual captains making decisions based on the changing situation while still following the overall plan. 3 more Scourge command ships exploded under concentrated fire. The drone ships around them spun aimlessly or crashed into each other. "It's working," Ambassador Zalith whispered. Hope in his voice for the first time in weeks. Commander Reeves nodded. "Yes, but look there." She pointed to a section of the tactical display where hundreds of Scourge ships had broken away from the main battle and were descending toward Viridian Prime. "As expected," Admiral Summers said calmly. "Collins is ready for them." As the first wave of Scourge ships entered Viridian's atmosphere, Captain Collins stepped into an armored suit and picked up his rifle. "Time to show them how Deathworlders fight," he said to his Marines. "Let's move out." The Scourge ships broke through the atmosphere of Viridian Prime, trailing fire as they descended. Hundreds of black vessels, each carrying dozens of drone warriors, scattered across the landscape. They targeted the largest cities first, as they always did when invading a planet. Captain Collins watched from a ridge, overlooking the capital city, as the first ships landed in the valley below. The Scourge drones emerged tall, insect-like creatures with metal parts fused to their bodies. They stood nearly 10 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in sharp claws or weapon attachments. "Ugly things," Sergeant Kim remarked beside him. Collins nodded. "Remember, their outer shell is tough, but has weak points at the joints. Aim there." He activated his communication link. "All units, hold positions until they reach the first line. Let them think they're making progress." The Scourge drones moved forward in waves, destroying everything in their path. They followed their programming spread out, consume resources, prepare for the main hive to arrive. Without their command ships, they fell back on basic instructions. Collins watched patiently as they approached the first set of buildings at the city's edge. These structures had been emptied of civilians, but filled with surprises. "Now," he ordered when the first wave of drones entered the target zone. Instantly, hidden charges in the buildings detonated, not with fire and shrapnel, as the Scourge might expect, but with a special compound the human engineers had developed. It created an extremely sticky foam that expanded rapidly, engulfing the drones and hardening within seconds. Hundreds of Scourge warriors were trapped, unable to move or use their weapons. Those that avoided the foam continued forward, only to encounter the next trap. "Defensive line 1, open fire," Collins commanded. Human Marines in powered armor rose from concealed positions. Their weapons fired special rounds designed to penetrate the Scourge's natural armor at the joint sections. Viridian soldiers equipped with similar weapons followed their example, firing from protected bunkers. The Scourge drones fell by the dozens, but more kept coming. They adapted quickly, changing their approach to avoid the buildings and seeking new paths into the city. "They're flanking east and west," Sergeant Kim reported. "Just as we predicted." Collins smiled grimly. "Good. Spring the side traps." The ground on either side of the main approach suddenly collapsed, creating deep trenches. Scourge drones tumbled in, only to be met with automated turrets that fired continuously from protected positions within the trench walls. In orbit above the planet, the space battle had turned decisively in the humans' favor. With most of the command ships destroyed, the Scourge fleet was in disarray. Admiral Summers directed the final phase from the bridge of the Valiant. "Target remaining ship clusters and eliminate them," she ordered. "Don't let any escape to report back to their main hive." Commander Reeves monitored communications from the surface. "Captain Collins reports the ground defense is holding. The Scourge landed approximately 10,000 drones, but their coordination is minimal without command ship support." Ambassador Zaleth watched the tactical displays in amazement. "In 3 days, you've accomplished what our people couldn't do in 3 years of fighting." "We've had more practice with war," Admiral Summers said simply. On the surface, the battle intensified as the Scourge drones, despite their lack of central coordination, continued their relentless attack. They operated on a simple directive: consume everything. Captain Collins and his Marines held the main defensive line, their powered armor giving them strength and protection beyond what any Viridian could manage. The lower gravity of Viridian Prime made the humans even more effective, allowing them to move faster and hit harder than they could on Earth. General Ilara fought alongside them, leading her Viridian soldiers with newfound courage. She had learned quickly from the humans, adapting their tactics to suit her people's abilities. "They're gathering for another push," she warned Collins, pointing to a large group of drones assembling behind a ridge. Collins nodded. "Time for our secret weapon. Sergeant Kim, deploy the Thunderers." From behind the human lines, 20 specially designed vehicles moved forward. They looked like tanks, but had no traditional guns. Instead, each was equipped with a device that generated powerful sound waves at frequencies that the humans had discovered were particularly painful to the Scourge's sensory systems. As the Scourge drones charged over the ridge, the Thunderers activated their weapons. No sound was audible to human or Viridian ears, but the effect on the Scourge was immediate. The drones stumbled, their movements becoming erratic. Some dropped their weapons and clawed at their sensory organs. "All units advance," Collins ordered. "Take them while they're disoriented." Human Marines and Viridian soldiers moved forward, together, systematically eliminating the vulnerable Scourge drones. For the first time since the invasion began, the defenders pushed the attackers back. In space, Admiral Summers received a priority communication from Earth. President Fitzgerald appeared on the main screen. "Admiral, we're receiving your battle data," he said. "Impressive work. The Joint Chiefs are particularly interested in the Scourge command ship structure you've identified." "Thank you, Mr. President," Summers replied. "We've nearly secured Viridian Prime. Request permission for the next phase of operations." Fitzgerald nodded. "Permission granted. The Second Fleet is already preparing to depart Earth. You'll have reinforcements within the week." Ambassador Zaleth looked from the President's image to Admiral Summers. "Next phase? What next phase?" Summers turned to him. "Ambassador, we didn't come here just to defend your planet. We came to eliminate the threat permanently." "You mean?" "Yes. Once Viridian Prime is secure, we'll take the fight to the Scourge home worlds. After 3 more hours of fighting, they last organized resistance from the Scourge ground forces collapsed." Captain Collins stood with General Ilara at the command center, reviewing casualty reports. We lost 37 Marines and 112 Viridian soldiers, Collins said, solemnly. The Scourge lost nearly all 10,000 drones that landed. Elara looked at him with new understanding. You never intended just to defend us, did you? Your admiral, your president, you always planned to take the war to them. Collins nodded. It's the human way. We don't just resist threats, we eliminate them. As night fell on Viridian Prime, the citizens emerged from their shelters to find their world still theirs. The human ships in orbit glowed like new stars in the sky, not just protectors, but avengers preparing for the next battle. In the capital city, Viridian leaders met with human commanders to plan the next phase of the war. Maps of distant star systems were spread out, showing the suspected locations of the main Scourge hive worlds. Ambassador Zalith stood with Admiral Summers, watching the planning session. When we asked the Galactic Council for aid, Zalith said quietly, we hoped for protectors. We never imagined you would take this war so personally. Summers looked at the Viridian with steady eyes. That's the thing about humans, Ambassador. We take everything personally. When we fight for allies, we fight as if we're fighting for our own souls. Because today it's your world, tomorrow it could be ours. On Earth, shipyards worked at full capacity, building more vessels for the growing Armada. What had begun as a defensive mission had become humanity's first interstellar war. And humans, as they had done throughout their violent history, intended to win it completely. As dawn broke over Viridian Prime, the planet's twin moons glowed softly in the sky. Below them, humans and Viridians worked side by side, preparing for the next phase of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were just getting started.